lower yields in the regenerative cornfields, but you know what? The regenerative cornfields were twice as profitable.
They weren't throwing money at a pest problem.
That's right. Why? Why the hell do we give prizes for how much a corn farmer yields? A well-trained monkey can grow 300 bushel corn if they buy enough jugs. Why is this? Number one, the conventional guys spent way too much on their seed and on their fertilizers. And number two, the regenerative folks were marketing their products differently. They weren't just relying on the co-op as their customer. Okay? They found different customers. What was really surprising to me, though, is that the profitability of each of these cornfields was not related to yield. You know what it was related to? The soil organic matter. Why don't we give a prize for that? Why don't we give a prize for who grew the most soil last year? Wouldn't that be a constructive contest? Yeah. I've seen a lot of studies that show that soil organic matter is important to yield, but I've never seen it shown that it's important to profit. We always stop short of that in our science, don't we? We just saw two scientific studies that show that farming differently, that changing the way that you think is a better business decision. Right? Why isn't regenerative agriculture taking off in the mainstream? Why isn't everybody farming this way? Everybody wins in this situation with a regenerative farm. Rural communities, you know, we're able to offset carbon emissions using these things, this approach. We're able to reduce pollution. We grow healthier food, so the human health problems start to become mitigated. Why isn't this mainstream? I think there's two reasons. You know, number one is we're talking about a paradigm shift, right? And paradigm shifts do not come from the government. They don't come from universities. You know where they come from? The bottom up, the ground up, right? And they take time. Also, I would argue that a real reason why this isn't taking off is that science, and maybe I'm biased because I am a scientist, has been really manipulated in this regard. Whenever a scientist tries to challenge preconceived notions, that ends poorly. And this is true throughout history. My kids and I were watching Cosmos with Neil deGrasse Tyson. Have you guys seen that? It's kind of a history of science. Every episode is, you know, they go back through history. And, oh, so-and-so, he discovered that, you know, light refracts in a certain direction, and this was really important in understanding the universe, and they cut his hands off and burned him at the stake. And like, the kids are like, what is going on? Every damn episode. It's like, yeah, what is going on here?
Even up into the 50s.
Oh, even now. Copernicus, Galileo were chastised for discovering aspects of the universe. Alfred Wegener, what a crazy guy. I mean, he thought, man, these continents were sitting on these big plates and moving around the world. Barbara McClintock, well, number one, she was a female scientist. That's way out of line. But then she discovered jumping genes. That she discovered how genes within the genome are not static, that they move. And now we rely on this for so much of our medicine and for our understanding of how species evolve and so many different things. Alan Turing cut his balls off for discovering computers. Lynn Margulis, I mean, God, this woman fought her entire career and discovered a whole new branch of evolution, of symbiosis, that we now teach in our schools. But none of that's easy, right? None of that's easy. Science is fallible. I got into science thinking that it was going to provide me with truth, that I could understand the world around me. Proof does not come from science. That's math. Math provides proofs. Science can provide understanding, but only if you're using it correctly. It's a way of approaching the natural world around us in a way for us to, move forward, right? Objectively. But it's gray. Science is not black and white. It is gray. How the hell did they convince us for decades that cigarettes had no human health effects? For decades. The tobacco industry formalized how we manipulate science. You can read Merchants of Doubt by Naomi Oreskes. Great book, a little thick. There's a movie on Netflix of the same title. If you want to learn how science is manipulated, it's really well laid out right there. Really well laid out. How do you do this? Well, if you've got an agenda, number one is science is gray. It's not black and white. If you find a study that you don't like the results of, all you got to do is pick it apart. There is no perfect study. So all you have to do is find all the flaws with it. And it's not hard. We do it all the time as scientists. It's like, make our careers off of that sometimes. All right? So if science is gray and it's not black and white, how do we make decisions based on science? Well, you rely on a preponderance of evidence. You repeat the same study or similar studies under different circumstances, and eventually you come to a consilience of evidence. How do you get a preponderance of science? Money. If you've got deep pockets, all you have to do is fund a preponderance of evidence that's to the science that is for sale, absolutely positively for sale. All you have to do is find the scientists that are willing to do the study that you want. But occasionally, and rarely, you've got a scientist out there that still believes in something, and they found something that you don't like, and they aren't shutting up about it. What do you do then? You eviscerate them publicly. You destroy them. You destroy them and everybody that they care about. And you put their corpse on a stake for everybody to see. And nobody else steps up. Ever again.
You did.
And that's how you manipulate science. Yeah. That's how you manipulate science. And this happens every day. Every day. Universities, you think tenure means anything? Bullshit. Federal science, completely owned. Case study. I was just up in Manitoba. We're talking to some scientists up there at a scientific meeting, and I got up there and I told them, you know what, the neonicotinoids are killing your bees, and there was an uproar. What? Blah, 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 blah. No. It's not clear. It's not black and white. It is gray. There is no consilience of evidence on that particular topic. All of those scientists were taking money from the canola industry, who uses neonicotinoids regularly. Why do we think that pesticides aren't necessarily one of the dominant causes? Because there is so much evidence that shows that varroa mite and not enough flowers are killing the bees. Where'd the preponderance of evidence come from? What do you think? Almost every life history parameter of the honeybee is adversely affected by neonicotinoids. The data is crushing. But yet, it's still gray. Still gray. We just don't know what to do. We better control the varroa. That one's really clear. The varroa mite is killing the bees. We better take care of that. science is necessary, but unfortunately we are not a data-driven society. I would argue, especially with the last election, that we may be less and less of a data-driven society. If we were a data-driven society, we all would have worn our seatbelts here. We all would have had 7 fruits and vegetables already today. So yeah. But unfortunately, that's not always the case. That's not always the case. So data is not sufficient, and that's really hard for a scientist to say, right? Because I'm trained as a scientist that this is my job. As a scientist, the rest of the world is the empty vessel, and I am to fill the vessel with my knowledge, right? And that's not sufficient. That's not sufficient. It does not change behavior. We need to be focusing, we need to be training our scientists to communicate their science to the people that need it the most. Not happening. A little bit about me. I was good. One of the top young scientists in the country. I was the first entomologist ever to receive a Presidential Early Career Award by President Obama for being one of the top scientists in the country. I was playing the game right, Students and postdocs, a huge lab team, publications. I had more than 100 papers. I wrote my first book by the age of 30. Millions in grant money. I was advising federal departments on risk assessment in both Europe and the US, okay? Well, then I met these guys. What these guys told me is that everything that I thought I was doing was wrong. Everything that I thought I was doing right was wrong. What they said is that you don't need insecticides. Most of these folks had abandoned pesticides from their operations years ago, and they were more profitable than ever. That wasn't supposed to happen. They were defying the science. The science was saying, no, you can't grow cover crops on your farm. It's too wet, too dry, too hot, too cold, right? These guys were doing it. And the science was used to inhibit their innovation, not help them. And I met these jerks. And the beekeepers said, listen, the pesticides are killing our bees. And I said, no, they're not. The data is inconclusive. It's gray. It's not clear. And they said, come on out. And during the spring, and you can watch the planter dragging the corn seed in and the dust coming off, the insecticide-laden dust coming off of that, and you watch my bees die, and then you tell me that the pesticides aren't killing my bees. And I did. And they were right. So we did the science on that. We said that the farmers were correct, that what they were doing was absolutely correct, and that it changed the way that we need to be thinking about our food system. And the beekeepers were correct. That there was corruption, and that it was wrong about the pesticides were hurting their bees. And everything changed. Everything changed. Suddenly, everybody on my lab team started getting harassed, dragged in, trying to coerce them into turning me into a monster. Every step of my job became difficult. I got suspended for paperwork snafus. One of my postdocs ended up collapsing in the parking lot from the stress, perforated ulcer. Everybody that I cared about got hurt. And so this question of why became very important. And enough was enough. They started to suppress the science. They started to say, no, you have to pull your name off of papers. You aren't allowed to publish that information about RNAi or neonicotinoids in monarchs. Now it's killing the monarchs. And so I blew the whistle. I quit noisy. I quit. I got out. And so that question of why became very important to me. And we started something totally different because I believed that there was a different future and that I couldn't change the current infrastructure from within, and I had to do it from outside of the matrix. So I jumped ship and we reached out. Here we are right there on eastern South Dakota. Minnesota's right here. Iowa's down here. And we bought this place called Blue Dasher Farm. Started with 3 bare buildings, 25 acres of crop ground, 28 acres of native unbroken prairie and wetlands. What we wanted to make was the first of a national network of centers for excellence in regenerative ag. This is the future. What we wanted to do, the corn, soybeans, cow guys and gals, they got the infrastructure that they need. If they have a question, they know where to go. But for the folks who are really innovating things, who are really pushing it, there isn't any infrastructure. There is no science that supports them, very rarely. And we wanted to make our science that. And so we want to remove those hurdles from the innovation of our food system. We want to train the next generation of scientists and farmers. But what really sets us apart on Blue Dasher is that we're not just getting up there and talking about it. We're not just filling the empty vessel, right? We are actually doing it. We're getting down on our hands and knees, getting dirty, and we're actually tying the livelihood of our own operation to putting these principles in regenerative farming into practice. In order to do this, we crowdfunded it. So we reached out to the farmers and beekeepers around the planet, and we said, if you believe that this is a viable future, consider supporting it. And they did. They bankrolled a research facility in regenerative ag. That's never happened before. We weren't selling, if you guys are familiar with Indiegogo campaigns or Kickstarters, I mean, usually you get a gizmo, right? And we weren't selling gizmos. We weren't giving anything away. We had an idea. And it was, you don't see many successful ideas funded on crowdfunding campaigns. So this was special, what happened here. First step in this process was to turn this pole shed into a research facility. We believe that the only way that you truly understand how to do something is to do it yourself. And so we decided to turn a milking parlor and a dog kennel into a research lab. And so we did most of this all by ourselves. So there was a big pit that we turned into our molecular lab. Yeah, it was just an incredible experience. And if you ever come out here, it's a special place. It's a special place. Our projects include rangelands and especially management of those cattle herds, just like what you saw Jacob doing earlier. Diversifying cropland in any ways that we can and figuring out how to do that profitably. And then if we figure these things out, the honeybees are going to be just fine. We currently have projects throughout much of the Great Plains and now a project that's just started in California almonds. And so we're looking forward to branching out even further from there. I would not be here without just an amazing team that's growing. I mean, we kind of set out when we started this thing, and we had this this vision of, I mean, there's going to be a community that develops, and it's going to be this great place of exchanging ideas, and how's that going to happen? You guys, well, hell if we know. What ended up happening is we built it, and they came. And so we had 3 resident scientists last summer. We ended up having to put an RV hookup in order to because we had so many visitors that were stopping on through. People from all over the planet have come here to help us. Education. This is an incomplete slide, unfortunately. We've had 2 field events. When we advertise these things, we'll get 150 people at one of our events. We're actually advertising it early this year. We've got 2 field events, June 19th as part of the grass-fed exchange, and then August 11th, so you guys all come out. Speeches at meetings. We've given talk at the UN's biodiversity conference about some of these ideas. 7 countries, 19 states we've spoken to since we opened in 2016, March of 2016. We're 2 years old. Media, we've spoken now to 11,000 face-to-face contacts. There's been 7 documentaries filmed about what we're trying to do here. Books, mainstream agricultural press, it's just, yeah, the list goes on and on. So the education aspect has been very successful. The students that we have are second to none. They have all gone on to win national awards. These are not slouches, okay? They're getting their degree through different programs around the country. California State, not University of California, and South Dakota State University. I'm trying to get a student to go through Nebraska now. They've all won national awards. What they're being trained in is systems level thinking and problem solving, not discipline-centric, siloing of entomology versus weed science versus soil science, So the students that are coming out of here, my God, I'd hire them before I'd hire any of the postdocs from major land grant. Yes, we are developing an education curriculum. Hopefully that's going to start to take. What we want is this to be sort of an apprenticeship program. We were just talking with some friends down at Piscinus Ranch about, down in California, about what this looks like, and me and Kelly Mulville agreed that it's time for us to actually do something about this. So we're going to start to really put this down into a major priority for us. And then here's the farm. 53 acres, which in my part of the country, that's very, very small. Okay. In 2016, our goal was to net $500 an acre, and we made it. Well, actually, our goal was $1,000 per acre, and we made $500. And in 2017, our goal was $2,000 an acre. We made $1,000 an acre, which is less. I always like to set a high bar. $5,000 an acre next year, right? But corn is currently produced at a $27 per acre loss in this country, so it's a hell of a lot better than what we're getting from our neighbors. Okay. All of our equipment is new to us. We spent $50,000 in order to get all of the equipment for our entire operation. All of it's old, all of it needs to be repaired regularly, but they're all workhorses, and that's what we wanted. So we often get the argument, I can't change the way that I'm doing this because I've invested so much in the equipment, and that's BS. This is a small business loan. What am I doing on time? Well, I'm doing all right. So this damn swather has been a great way for me. One guy, when I gave this talk not too long ago, he's like, how'd that John Deere 800 treat you? I'm like, well, I've learned to repair an awful lot thanks to that machine. It breaks down right before I'm about to harvest, and so I called my neighbor. I thought I had the oldest windrower in the county, and then my neighbor brought his up, and his broke down too. Right I didn't get the crop out on time, but a beautiful picture. This is our prairie. What a special place. So much diversity out there. It's just, if you've never been to the prairie before, there's not much left. Maybe 1% of what used to be there. But you just sit down, and everybody says, oh, grass, grass is worth something. I'm like, no. What you do is you sit down in it, and you immerse yourself in the intricate diversity that it just takes your breath away. That you realize that there's 20 plant species around you that you were just walking over and completely missed, That's a prairie. Our farm is never till. We do not till the soil. And then we really promote vegetation diversity. So what we're doing is we're growing high-value seed crops. Okay, so these would be things that the cover crop industry needs, but there isn't a lot of domestic sources for the seed. And so we can grow that seed on our own farm and remove barriers from farmers that want to adopt some of these new technologies or these new seed species, and then generate income for our farm so we can contribute to the research too. Honey production. Honey production is one of our main revenue streams. So I'm not sure. Yeah. So the high value seed crops that we're growing are borage. Borage, I can get $6 a pound for the seed, and we can sometimes, when everything hits, and it hasn't yet, we should be able to get 300 pounds of seed per acre. So I'm expecting around 1,800 net from that crop. Hubam annual sweet clover has been really good for us. It's an annual sweet clover. We get $4 a pound for the seed on that, and we get 300 pounds of seed per acre. So we're netting about $1,200 an acre from that crop. Phacelia we've tried, yeah.
How do you harvest the seed from clover?
Yeah, so we...
How do you harvest the seed from a crop like clover?
So you cut it with this, and it poops out a windrow, and then you pick it up with this pickup header on this combine. And then you clean the seed afterwards. So we're just getting our seed cleaning going from that. You have to have your own equipment for this. You can't rely on the neighbors who's harvesting corn and soybeans. The timing is critical, and having the right machine is critical. It doesn't have to be the newest machine, but it's got to be the right one. But the nice thing about all of these plant species that we're growing on our farm for seed is that they are also some of the top honey producing plants that are known. And so we lost our borage crop last year. So we lost it. I made more money than the neighbors. How? Because I took a honey crop off of that before the harvest, and the harvest is where it died. So it was like, our goal is to make 300 pounds of honey per acre on our farm. And I think we were actually pretty close to that, but we had to build comb first, which I was like, God bless it. They put a lot of resources into that comb. And so, at $8 a pound, suddenly you're starting to see where this approach. The question becomes, how often can you lose an entire crop and still make money? And the answer is every single time in a regenerative system. Every time. Because you're stacking enterprises. Okay? So honey production is a really important component. All of my hives died last year. They got smoked. I lost 75% of them right after frost. The bees can't remember how to make a ball to regulate their temperature. That's a neonic thing. That's a neurotoxin thing. And then the rest of them died over the winter. I just checked them before I came, and they were all dead. So we'll try again. We'll try again. Got a lot of honey off of them. Poultry. We have a laying operation, 100 layers. We'll get another 60 broilers for family and friends. We have hair sheep. The hair sheep are our weed control. Why would I spend money managing weeds with herbicides or tillage or something like this when I can make money off of it? We had a group of farmers from Russia come over, and they're like, you have a lot of weeds. We've had, South Africa, Russia, France. They come to Little Duel County, South Dakota to see what this is all about. Pretty special. Anyways, they were like, you've got a lot of weeds in that field. I'm like, where? I don't see any weeds. I see forage. Change the way you think. Okay. My goal is to integrate pastured pork in with the sheep next year. We're also thinking about rabbits, we'll see, for meat and fur production. Our layers are doing really well right now. We've got 100 of those. I think I already mentioned that. We threw a border collie puppy in there. Oh my God. Tornado on legs. Our business model, I think, is as diverse as our farm is. A lot of what we do is through donations. We want to continue to do no strings attached research. And that can only happen if people pony up and help support it. Okay? Research grants, because we have a 501c3 and an LLC, we're able to compete for most federal research grants, actually more grants than I could as a USDA employee. Farm revenue is going to be a really important component of our budget, and then education funds. So speaking and things like that for farmers and things along those lines. Yeah, we just wouldn't be here without an amazing group of helpers from all over the country, all over the world. They've come to give us a hand. One of my former students came from Spain for 3 weeks. She came to, I don't know, she's planting kittens there or something adorable. So I started here as a scientist, as a husband, as a father, and I wanted to get here. But what I didn't know is that it also required help. And that's a short list. That's a short list. So there it is. Why? Why are you here tonight? And the status quo is not good enough anymore. We need people who are willing to make bold actions. We don't need another damn pamphleteer or somebody handing out wildflower seeds. We need people that are willing to do something. Not just talk about it, but do something. And so that's why I did what I did. Many, many people have helped, and this is yet not everybody that it should be. Yeah, so many thanks to all of them as well as my team. If you would like to learn more about what we're trying to do, Ecdysis, and this is a good place to donate. Ecdysis.bio is our 501c3, and then Ecdysis is as a geeky entomology term for metamorphosis, shedding the old skin. And blue dashers are a dragonfly species that are pretty damn cool. So they constitute a cool bug. There's our Twitter, our Facebook. Follow us, like us. A lot of the information that comes out about the farm and our new science comes out via those venues. So get on those. And thanks so much, everybody, for listening for a long time, some of you today. So great.